Hello and welcome to Raising the Barr, the go-to podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs. Today's guest, he's an athlete, he's a high-performance coach, he works with mindset, he's an author as well, he's done everything. Ladies and gentlemen, Jean-Pierre De Villiers.
Jamie, thank you so much for having me, man.
JP, I was just saying to you before, I've heard so much about you from close friends over the last few years. It's actually the first time we've met, so we're doing it live on camera.
And I was just saying before we went live, I was like, I've seen your name for a long time, and now finally we're meeting.
Exactly.
So,
it's like we've got a first date, but they're filming it. It's like a TV show. Perfect. Well, before we dig into everything, let's really go back in time a little bit. You are, would you say, obsessed with personal development?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And where did that obsession first come from?
Oh man, that's a big question to start off with, Jamie. But I grew up in Cape Town, South Africa, and I just had a life that I was very introspective and reflective as a kid, and I just was observing everything. I was observing my parents, and I would even think like, my mother's cooking for 2 hours every night, pissed off, angry, getting drunk. I was like, why would you do this to yourself? And I was like 12 years old. So I've always been like that, trying to understand human beings, why we do what we do, why we don't do what we do, why we don't do what we don't do, and how we can do better. So I grew up with that kind of energy, so to speak. But then I left high school. I had a way out of the country, and that was because my grandfather was from Britain, got an ancestral visa, moved to the UK, and I decided to just try and get my life right, but I did it on my own. Now you know you support so many people in your business, you know, probably like me. If you're doing it alone, you're doing it wrong. And I did it alone, and I made a lot of bad decisions. I ended up at 23, just seeking external validation as a full-time DJ, wanting guys to be me, wanting girls to be with me, and it just led me down a place of just not feeling happy and looking successful. And I was 23, I came from nothing. I had my first job washing windows at 10 years old, and I was getting a few £100 a night just to play music. And I was having obviously a debaucherous, a hedonistic life, and I just felt very empty. And at 23 years old, I was able to reflect 10 years prior to that, when someone in my life, my father, was living exactly the same life. And actually 10 years prior to that moment, my father was so empty and suffering so much, seeking constantly external validation, that he ended up killing himself. So I thought, if I keep doing this same stuff, I'm not heading in the right direction. So I thought, if I can go to the UK on my own, decision by decision, get my life wrong, maybe I can decision by decision get my life right. Let me just start over again. Let me go back to the UK from Riga, Latvia, where I was DJing. Let me push the reset button and just start again. Sold all my records, sold my Technics 1210 turntables, sold everything. And I was just like, right, today is day one. And I just started working on myself. Didn't want to be a coach, speaker, author, any of the things that I am now. I just wanted to save myself. And by 25 years old, just by doing only one thing, working on myself, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, habits, environment, people in my environment, mindset. By 25 years old, I felt fucking unstoppable. I was a 25-year-old youngster living in the center of London, dating a 10 out of 10 Scandinavian blonde with brown bronze skin. And I was like, oh my God, I am the king. I am the dog's bollocks. And I was like, man, if I can go from thinking maybe I'm going to go towards my bottom to feeling bulletproof and unbreakable. And I just did it by figuring out how to do it. I can teach this to people. And the rest is history. I've been doing the same thing, not part-time. I've never had another job, not even for an hour. I've just, for 20 years, I've done exactly that. Figure out how can I live my best life and then teach it to others. And I only share what I know. So I'm not a business coach, I'm a performance coach, because I can teach you how to perform better in a way that your business is better. But I'm not a business coach because I'm yet to break 7 figures, Jamie.
Exactly. Well, I mean, first of all, unbelievable. I mean, to be able to change your life at 23, there's so many people I think get to that point, but a lot later in life. So, but there's a lot to pick up on there. But one point really interested me there was this external validation. Because I think if we look back at the history of time, people have always looked to be validated. But has it ever been at the extremes now where with social media, people are addicted to the likes? Why do you think that need for external validation has been amplified to the level it's now at?
Well, because marketing before social media exists was just in, kind of in pockets. Like you might see a billboard, you might read a magazine, but marketing is telling you that whatever you want, you don't have, right? Everything you're being sold to, handbags, shoes, lifestyle, looks, body, men's health, selling you a physique. It's just all this conditioning and programming that you're not there yet. So you try to get there by getting things on the external. And by taking in all of this, let's call it marketing, you just start to feel not enough. But then social media came along. And constantly from, let's be honest, most people check their phone within 30 seconds of waking up. The first thing you see in a new day is I'm not enough. Yeah. I don't have that likes. I don't have those likes. I don't have those comments. I don't have those followers. I don't have that physique. I don't have that money. I don't have that car. So you literally are programming yourself every day to feel not enough.
And what is the difference between, because obviously in life we all require validation to some extent, is in the workplace, clients, in relationships, we require some positive feedback, don't we? So how do we separate negative validation from positive validation?
It's to live your life according to what makes you happy, to your highest values, to your greatest passions, and to treat everything on the external as an opinion, but never as facts. Like when you can live your life independent from the opinions of others, you are free. When you can live your life in alignment with what you believe and what your intuition tells you to do, you are free. But as long as you are making your decisions on your life based on something that you've experienced on the external, you are not living your truth. I have the word truth tattooed above my eye because I'm so committed to helping people realize that your truth is in you. It's not on the outside. I've been performance coaching, at least with high performers and business owners, for over a decade. And I can tell you, the evidence is there. Don't take my word for it. Go ask other people. Go watch podcasts. That success on the outside just isn't enough. Money in your bank account just isn't enough. I have a client who now actually lives in Dubai, and he waited 15 years to sell his company for millions because he thought it would give him the feeling of being enough. And the day he finally sold his company, he kept checking his phone. So much anxiety. Like, is this the moment? Is this the moment? And I'd worked with him a few years prior to that. And I worked with some of the people in his business. And then we hadn't really spoken for maybe a couple of years. And then he messaged me and he said, I sold my business. I was like, oh, congratulations. And oh my God, 15 years from sitting in your bedroom. And he said, I need to do some coaching with you. And he said, when I turned the phone over and I saw the millions, and we were talking a lot of money, he said, I didn't feel any different. Yeah. And it's because of that attachment to something on the external. So what I help people figure out is how to be successful and fulfilled in the first hour and the last hour of your day when you can't consume shit. If you can get to that place, and not if, when you get to that place when you feel full on your own, everything else is just a bonus. But the bonus of the bonuses is that when they aren't there, it doesn't matter. Because you're not validated by those things on the outside. Your identity isn't made up by what you see on the outside. Your identity is made up in remembering who the fuck you are and knowing who you are, knowing yourself. That is the most important question in your life. Knowing yourself and then knowing what your greatest gift is and then giving that gift to the world. That's it. That is our life's purpose.
100%. I think when you look at a lot of people, I see a lot of people struggling with anxiety. And I'm sure a main trigger for them is that they are living an unauthentic life. And they're terrified every single day in life. And I've been guilty of this in the past. I put my hands up, like, a few years ago, I was living an unauthentic life. I was living beyond my means, living at a level of pretend success.
I've been there.
You've been there. And now the weird thing is, when you've actually achieved all that, now the fancy restaurants don't appeal to me anymore. Like, I live a very low-key life now. But back then, and you're terrified every day of getting caught out. Do you think that's like a pandemic with a lot of people, that they're just living completely false lives?
I think it's just because we are trained and conditioned and programmed to believe that success looks like A, B, C once you have X, Y, Z. But actually, that's just someone else's rules. It's your community's rules, your country's rules, your government's rules, society's rules, your school's rules. It's not your rules. You have to make up your own rules for your happiness. I'll give you one example, Jamie. When I started coaching, I eventually started speaking, and I arose very quickly. Because of all the work that I had done on myself, I rose very quickly, very confidently in the speaker world. And after just a few years, I was being flown around the world representing Tony Robbins, speaking with some massive names like Robert Kiyosaki, John DeMartini, Jay Abraham, Jay Shetty. But I was getting caught in the industry of speaking, and everyone else was telling me what a successful speaker does is they sell from stage. Yeah. And my role model, my greatest hero growing up has always been Nelson Mandela. Can you imagine Nelson Mandela like going to stages and saying like, you can buy my program for $59, but wait, if you buy it now, you can get it for $10. And but I didn't know what I was doing. I was just caught up in what other people told me success was. And I started to feel, like you just said, extremely anxious. I took my greatest gift, speaking, and I turned it into my worst nightmare, because I would just feel like, oh my God, am I going to be good enough? Am I going to be good enough? Well, of course, when you're just living your truth, when you're living your passion, when you're doing what you love, you don't need to be scored on the outside. No. Your score is how you feel.
100%. Yeah.
And I would feel so amazing. But now I was getting to these events and I was being judged on the sales that I was making. I was being judged on my slide presentation. And anyway, long story made very short, I realized that for me to remove this anxiety, I need to align myself to my truth. Yeah. I need to respect my nature, what I'm good at. Stop trying to excel at things you're not meant to excel at. Get someone else to do that. And I need to start trusting myself and my intuition. So I just started saying, I don't do slides, I don't do sales. If you want me, you pay me for my time, and I will inspire the audience. Yeah. And I'm going to Charlie Johnson's event for like the 5th or 6th time tomorrow, exactly for that. To just wake people the fuck up and inspire life and potential and possibility into them. Yeah. But if you ask me to sell stuff, I'm like, no, that's not me. Ask me to do something that's not in alignment with who I am, you will see anxiety. Yeah. And the same goes for you and everyone else that's watching or listening to this. Yeah. Like anxiety comes from thought. Every anxious situation comes from feeling anxious. And every emotion or feeling is a delayed response of something that you have just thought. You can't have a feeling without a thought. So why are you feeling anxious? Because you're what you're thinking. And it might be that you're thinking, I don't want to do this. I'm not good at this. What's people going to think, etc., etc.
Yeah. And what you said there is so true about the thing that you love can become something you hate. Like how many unbelievable sportsmen do you see who reach the highest level that have dreamt their whole life? And when they start to get on that biggest stage, maybe not initially, but over the years, they crumble more and more and more. And it's almost like they dread what they do now, isn't it?
And how do they usually find themselves? I'm going to ask you a question now. When they say they got back to whatever, their best self, what do they usually do to get back to that?
A lot of the time, I think you see things like with these high-performance athletes, they might have moved to the big city. They're living a life they've never known. They go back to their roots. They go back to their family. They go back to the basics that made them happy.
They remember who the fuck they are.
Exactly.
They remember their why, they remember who they are, they remember why they started. Forget yourself and you'll lose yourself. Yeah. It's that simple.
Exactly. It's like for me, like my family have always been such a fundamental part of me, because no matter what stage I'm at in life, that just brings me back to exactly who I am. The people I've always been with, the values I hold true, the morals. It's like that
values are everything.
Everything.
Like
everything.
Everything. Yeah. I ordained as a Buddhist monk about 2.5 years ago, not because I was having a midlife crisis or a breakdown. I'm obsessed about personal development. Yeah. And I was like, man, imagine if I could live with monks, I would learn some stuff. And when I had that experience, one of the things I took away from that was that, and the monks helped me clarify this because monks are so good at simplifying things to the maximum. And they said, simply put, based on what you've shared with us, JP, and what you teach, they're like, we agree that a life out of alignment with your values is a life of suffering. And I was like, that's just so powerful and profound. And a life in alignment with your values is free from suffering. But it takes clarity, courage, and compassion to give yourself permission to actually say, you know what, screw all of you. I'm going to do what I love. And when I realized it in my 20s, I was like, this is the path. Even though people say for clickbait and stuff like, oh, you can't just love what you do. Like, yes, you can. And that's why I tattooed it across my chest. It's like, do what you love what you do. That is success.
I love that. Everything you like, you just get tattooed somewhere.
Fuck it. I might like something for this podcast, put on my cheek.
Exactly. Great marketing for us. And one thing you said before, I'm really interested in this because you said about the first hour and the last hour. Now, if I look at my day, I would say the first hour is chaotic. It's rushing, it's getting out of the house, it's showering, it's forgetting something. The last hour is probably chaotic because you're trying to squeeze stuff in before bed. Now, I can completely agree that is not a good or a bad way to end the day. but I must be...
No, that's not a good way.
No, but I must be the norm. There must be a lot of people who are rush. It's not like I'm an anomaly.
Absolutely,
yeah. And I admit it's a very bad way, and I'd like to personally correct that. And you said before there was a very simple sort of method of training yourself to do better in those situations.
Well, first of all, it's just not for a lack of like psychological skills that I want to share. Just I went through all the experiences in my life so I could simplify everything and simplify transformation. It's meditate. All of my clients that I work with, mostly millionaire business owners, business leaders on six figures, very successful people. I teach them meditation. I'm not a meditation teacher. Yeah. I'm going to help you perform at your best and align your life to your values, your life, your business, your relationships. But one thing I'm going to tell you to do as a non-negotiable is meditate. Because when you have chaos in your business, what do? You call a meeting immediately. Yeah. When we have chaos in our life, we don't call a meeting with ourselves. I just find that ridiculous. Yeah. Like you'll have a meeting with external chaos to get rid of external chaos, but you won't have a meeting with yourself. Like you neglect yourself so much, you put yourself at the back of the queue that you won't even have a meeting with yourself. And that's the most important meeting you will ever have. I realized in my time in 16 days living in silence, living with Shaolin warrior monks, becoming a Buddhist monk, 200 hours of training and meditations and apprenticeships in plant medicines, I realized one thing, that meditation comes before everything else in life. Because there's not one thing that doesn't get better. You cannot convince me that you have chaos at home, chaos at work, chaos in life, that if you sat down for an hour, crossed your legs, or if you can't cross your legs, sat on a chair and just put your palms up on your lap, that if you just sat there for an hour and just were still, you can't convince me that you don't feel better. It makes everything better.
You meditate for an hour every day?
I don't do an hour because I'd like to think that I live in meditation now. Okay. I'm so advanced at living in meditation or practicing meditation that I can meditate anywhere. Yeah. I can meditate in a taxi. I meditated in the taxi on the way here. I spoke to the driver. Yeah. Some people won't even do that. No. I'm too busy. Yeah. They'll get annoyed with the driver. The thought will become an emotion. The emotion will become an external reaction. It's like, oh my God, like, bro, you need to meditate. Yeah. And I'll just be like, you know what? The only time is now. The only time is now. The only time is now. Let me just enjoy this moment with the driver. That is meditation. Meditation isn't sitting in the mountains with monks and going, It's about training your awareness.
So it's just making you at one with the moment you're in.
Just making yourself aware of what is going on right now. So you could sit right now for 30 seconds and just pay attention to the microphone, the energy of the microphone, the sound of the aircon, the feeling of the warmth of the light behind you. That's meditation. Yeah. And the more you can train your awareness, the more you can stop yourself from reacting. Because every external reaction in your business, with your team, with your friends, the way you react when you're by yourself, whatever, or with your partner, with your kids, once again, external reaction is a result of an emotion, and an emotion is a result of a thought. Yeah. Meditation teaches you to become aware of the thought before it even becomes an emotion. Yeah. So when you're a master of meditation, you don't react.
And those reactions are so important, because I always say to people in business, when if you're having a, should we say, heated discussion with someone, or there's a bit of back and forth, and you send that text or that email, and you see that response come back 2 minutes later, you've won. Because there's no thought gone into that. That is just an out and out impulse reaction from that person.
Unconscious reaction.
Yeah, like they have just exploded. Yeah.
Then you won't see that. If anyone that practices meditation long term, you just won't do that. No. You just won't, because you'll recognize. I grew up with angry people around me, and I have this beautiful shamanic drum that I play at my house. My daughter smashed it with a padlock the other day whilst I was in a meeting. My old self, the unconscious self, wanted to go like my father and my stepfather, fuck more. But what happened was, internally, I went, fuck. And then because I trained my awareness for 10 years, I went, fuck. No, that's not who I am. And if you can do that, and you can train yourself to be that aware and act on your awareness, you can save yourself from so much suffering. Yeah, if you lose a deal, lose a client, lose a fight, lose an argument, you just don't react, because you're like, no, that doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve me.
100%. And these people you worked with so many people in the high performance space, from, like you said, some of the world's leading speakers to high performance athletes to top level CEOs. Is there a common barrier you perceive that holds people back? Is there anything that you really see when people break through that they can achieve anything?
thinking that, I mean, there's a few. Yeah. To say that there's only one, I wouldn't be doing the listeners, I would be doing them a disservice, because I don't want people to get latched onto one thing. But one common denominator is not giving yourself permission to have more joy in your life. And as cheesy as that sounds, Jamie, like some people just are so conditioned to believe that life has to be difficult. Even when you're successful, life has to be difficult. So you're more successful than you've ever been, but you still have stress. You still have anxiety, you have no time, you have no freedom, and you've created this life for yourself.
You build your own prison.
So so I'll often will say to clients, not obviously business leaders, business owners, I'll be like, you created your life. I have a very unique style of coaching, and I will just talk to them based on whatever is coming up for me. And I'm not going to, I don't work for them as a coach, they work for me, or we work together as a partnership. And I will just say the truth. I'm like, you are your own boss. Like, stop complaining to me about the stress that you have. No one's forcing you to do it. But it's your program that you keep running every day. And until you change the software, you update the software, this program is going to run every day for the rest of your life. So the stress and anxiety and overwhelm and anger, resentment, all of those negative emotions you feel, if you keep feeling those for the next 10 years, where's your life going to be? Where's your relationship going to be? What's a relationship with your kids and grandkids going to be like? Where's your health going to be? Because once you lose that, you're fucked.
But what do people do? Because obviously, even for a lot of our listeners as well, a lot of the listeners are business owners. And in some ways, when you get to that position, you've achieved your dreams in some ways. What you set out to do, you've built this company. And then 100%, well, 95% of people I know have also, like I said, built that prison. And like you said, the stress, the anxiety, the pressure, the more you're making, the more that becomes. But they can't give up on that first dream. So is it a case of balancing, or is it a case of aligning or dropping back? Because I think finding that balance is such a challenge.
Absolutely. And it's, as a high performer, that's like your life's work. Find not like work-life balance, because if you love what you do, why would you want to break from your work? It's ridiculous. Like, if you feel you need work-life balance, you don't love what you do. You're trapped in a prison. And your dream isn't a dream if your dream feels like a nightmare. And what you need to do is you need to ask yourself is, if this was success to me, but I don't feel successful, it's what would success feel like? Not look like, feel like. And then if it's you want more time with your family, it's you want to feel better, you want better health. I mean, basically anything that you would write on a list of what success would feel like, it's start having goals in alignment with what you have written down. Does that make sense?
100%, yeah.
So sorry, you go.
No, as you say, it's because it's not always like what you actually think is your dream isn't always your dream. Like
it's always someone else's dream.
It's always someone else's dream that you've just believed is yours because you've heard it for so many years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I post different things on my social media, and I don't have a big following, but I would just work privately with people. You know, I have like 10 to 15 clients at one time. And I post stuff like with my daughter during the daytime. And I know some of my clients, or people that maybe haven't been clients of mine yet, but they are my ideal client, that's going to piss them off. Because they're going to be like, oh, fucking hell, this guy pisses me off. You know, he's irritating. But I know that's what people want. Most of my male clients, anyway, they wish they could have time with their daughter, but they won't give themselves permission because they don't. This is going to sound, you ready for some cheese? They don't love themselves enough. They just don't love themselves enough. They've created a life for themselves where they are an employee in their own life. And if they love themselves enough, they would step out of the employee role in their life, not their business, and they would become the CEO of their life. And when you're the CEO of your life, you make the best decisions for your life, like the CEO of a business does.
100%.
So what would that CEO of your life look like? What would you do? And to give a practical thing for you to start doing that, it's put yourself at the front of the queue. Carve out a morning routine that is before anyone else. And, you know, people say, oh, but I have kids. I have a daughter. I still get my routine done. Just get up earlier. Oh, but then I don't get enough sleep. Go to bed earlier. It's like, you'll either find an excuse or you'll find a way. And it's just carve out time for yourself to, like we were talking about before, meditate. And it doesn't have to be cross your legs and listen to mantras. It just means just be still. Stillness is the key to success. You are not successful if you lack time. You are not successful if it costs you your peace. You are not successful if it costs you your health, your relationships, your inner wealth, your fulfillment. Like, you need to look at, how do I get that back? How do I get happiness, peace, relationships, love, fulfillment, joy? That is success.
Oh, exactly. And I think that's why I was so excited about today's podcast, because for so many people I know, like, so many people are doing so many amazing things at the minute, achieving such success. But when you look at a lot of those most successful people, they're probably the least successful in the areas you've just described. Like, it's almost like counterintuitive.
So I'm going to give a shout out to Matt, right?
Yeah.
Matt Haycox, who connected us.
Yeah.
Like, I adore Matt. I don't have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
I like it that way because I'm so aggressive in developing myself year by year. It's very difficult for people to keep up with me. So most of the time, I feel like people are a drain on my progress, or they're holding me back. But my clients, obviously, they want to be tethered to me. So they're as aggressive or similar to me. So actually, my clients are my friends. But I do have a small group of friends, a small inner circle. And in that group is Matt. Like, he's become a very close friend to me over the years. And here's why. Because Matt understands that success without happiness is failure. Yeah. And actually, Matt once shared with me, we've done a few podcasts together over the years. We're doing another one after this, I think for like the 8th time. And I asked him about this. I said, what's your view on this? You know what I teach, you know what I represent, what I stand for, but you're very successful. Like, what's your views on happiness and success? And he said, most of the people I know that are more successful than me, as in him, he said, are miserable. Yeah. And to quote him, he said, I wouldn't swap my life with them for all the tea in China. And it's just the way the world is. And that's why, look, everyone has a purpose. I told you before, your purpose in life is to figure out who you are, take your greatest gift, give that to the world. My gift is working with leaders in business. Yeah. And if I can help leaders in business put themselves first so they are more overflowing, they give with that overflow and they just make a much bigger impact in the world. Bigger as in the impact that they're making on the external, but bigger as in what it means to them too. And that's how I'm changing the world, working with one leader at a time.
Yeah, 100%. When I was reading up on your stuff last night, I saw that you focus on the idea of burning the boats as well, which is something I've always loved about when it was the Vikings, wasn't it, when they used to come over to the UK, used to burn the boats. Where does that kind of play a part for you in business leaders and them burning their boats? Because obviously you said there about friends not growing at that, people holding you back. How does that come into play?
So first of all, burning the boats is not my quote, just to the listeners or the watchers. It's a quote that Tony Robbins made famous, that arguably one of the best coaches in the world. But I'm not sure where it originated from. But it basically means be all in. Yeah. You know, don't give yourself an option B. So when it comes to my clients, it's just how I help them burn the boats is just by giving them accountability. You know, I often say to people, I'm just teaching accountability. I'm just providing accountability. Because if you're wishy-washy about your goals, you're going to get wishy-washy goals and wishy-washy results. So I just help my clients by holding them accountable to being all in. I allow them to become more aware of what they want and act on that awareness faster than they would ever do on their own. But you need to understand what it is that you really want, your values, your vision, your mission, your purpose, and then burn the boats on those things. Because you don't want to burn the boats on the wrong things.
Doesn't everyone turn around, she says? Because I always think, though, do you think some people genuinely believe they're not all in, or do you think a lot of people actually think they're all in when they've not even dipped their toe in? But do you think they persuade themselves they are all in?
I think both.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good question. I've never been asked that before, but I think both. Some people are delusionally optimistic.
Because I see some people, like, in the office environment, in work, and in their head, I actually think they believe they're all in. Well, I know you're not even 25% to what you can do.
So there's a thing in neurolinguistic programming called DDGs, which is delete, distort, generalize. And people will basically delete information, distort what they're telling you or what they're taking in, or generalize something like I've tried everything based on their own psychology, on their own values, their own beliefs, their own conditioning, their own trauma, their own upbringing, etc. So a lot of the times people are delusional, and that delusion is causing them suffering, thinking that I've done everything and it hasn't worked. Really? You've done everything in the world? Like, I'm doing everything that I can. Really? You're doing everything that you can. Well, let me tell you, you could go 4 days without sleep easily. Have you had 4 days without sleep to get your goals? But so yeah, I think both of those answers are true. And some people just aren't. Some people just, once again, to go back to what I shared, they just don't love themselves enough. No. You know, I've said to people, like, you just don't love yourself enough. And I'm not sitting on a pedestal saying like, oh, I'm all shiny love and, you know, happiness. Like, I know my life has been all about levels. Yeah. And every time I've been stuck at a level of my life, it's because I don't have love at my next level. I don't honor myself at that next level. I don't respect myself at that next level. Until I do the inner work to work on myself, life mastery is an inside-out game. I keep working on myself, and eventually I love myself at a new level. Then guess what? Things start to change in my life.
And when you say people don't love themselves, is that are human beings naturally set up not to love themselves? Is it the fact that people have had trauma in their life? How does that come to play?
Everyone is born into love and potential.
Yeah.
Look at a child, right? Every child is just living in love, living in their potential. But life messes us up. Yeah. The school system messes up. The school
system's terrible.
The school system is so broken.
Yeah, it's so broken.
Because let's say, for example, you have 100 children. They all have very, very unique gifts. And now you've got 6 boxes. The main 6. And in South Africa, we had 6 main subjects. So you're trying to fit 100 unique individuals trying to find themselves, and you're saying you're not worthy or good enough unless you fit in one of these 6 boxes. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous. But the reason why it was set up like that is because the school system was set up to either go be a skilled worker, work in a factory, or work in an office. Yeah. So by doing these 6 boxes, we can figure out where you need to go. But the world has changed so much. One of my clients who lives in Dubai, you should definitely get him on your podcast. He's built an alternative school where he teaches kids based on finding out who the child is. Yeah. He teaches them violin from the age of 2. They're speaking multiple languages by the age of 3. It's absolutely extraordinary what he does. And he too is driven by his passion, which is to end that old school system because it destroys children. He believes that you can teach genius, that making kids genius is a skill, but you need to honor the child and you need to help them grow from the inside out, not from the outside in. Does it make sense?
100%. I remember back at our school, there was this kid and he was a few years below us and he had something about him. You know, just one of them, he was a little bit naughty, but he was cheeky, but that kid could have been a superstar in life because he had the personality. And I remember you watched him go through school. He was a few years below us. And that system broke him.
Really?
And now he's in a standard 9 to 5 job. He's a quiet guy. He's that, but you know, I just remember looking at him, you know, when he was like 6, 7 years old, and you thought, that kid's going to do something. But there's no doubt about it. The education system suppressed him and suppressed him and suppressed him because he didn't fit in their box.
Brother, I grew up believing that I was destined for greatness. Yeah. And by the time I got out of 12 years of school, I believed I was stupid. Yeah. Like I was never meant to be in a school. Yeah. And it just broke me. It really, really broke me. And that's why my daughter and any children that I have in the future, they will not go to a traditional school, 100%. Because it doesn't make any sense to put someone that is a blank canvas they're already living in their greatest potential, and then to put them in a system that breaks down their potential, and not breaks down as in like destroys their potential over 12 years, and then you get the end result of that. It's just I find it so stupid.
And I think that's why me and my siblings were always so lucky, was that whatever happened at school, however useless they told us we were, when we came home, you know, our mom always drilled into us, you are superstars. You can do this. They don't know what they're talking about.
Lucky, man.
The teacher, that was like, you know, I always say every success we have is owed very much to that.
You are so lucky to have that. Yeah, exactly. Because many people have not had that.
No, exactly. And it was like, you know, if a teacher said something that went after one of us, my mom came in like a Rottweiler, attacked them. And it was like, my kids are right. I mean, we got a clip round here in the car, but publicly we're always right. And the point you said there about trauma and how trauma affects people over a lifetime, but it also, if we look at these super successful people that go out and achieve, so many of them have experienced trauma, haven't they? So what's the difference between some people taking a trauma and turn it into a positive thing to achieve greatness, and other people letting trauma consume them and ruin their lives?
Well, it's meaning. There's a great book that I've recommended to at least 100 people over the years by a guy named Viktor E. Frankl. It's called A Man's Search for Meaning. Have you read that?
No, I've not read it.
And basically he was a Jewish prisoner in concentration camps in the World War, including Auschwitz. And he just realized, he was a psychologist, I think already at the time, was a psychiatrist, I can't remember. And he realized every day facing his own death, you know, stand in the queue, go right you go to the gas chamber, go left, you survive another day. Working on the railways in the snow, seeing people lose feet and toes, sitting in the barn or whatever, the room where all the prisoners were kept, and seeing bodies pile up on the side and pieces of flesh missing because people were so hungry they turned into cannibalism, eating bowls of soup that was just water with a fish head. Like, he was able to say, you know what? This is happening for me. This is happening for me. Yeah. And he actually went on to create a type of therapy called logotherapy based on his findings in the concentration camps, which is this: there is no meaning to life. You choose the meaning of your life. Yeah. So because it is choice, some people, whether because of a lack of awareness, a lack of competence, a lack of inspiration, or a lack of relatedness, people that inspire them to look at their life differently, people choose to say, this is happening to me, or my trauma has happened to me. Yeah. But some people choose to say, or they're lucky enough to choose to say, this is happening for me. Yeah. And if you say this is happening to me, you'll be a victim for the rest of your life. And every success you ever have is a Band-Aid on the wound. Yeah. But the Band-Aid rots. And then you need to put another Band-Aid and another Band-Aid and another car and another financial goal and another trophy wife or another husband or another person to sleep with. And it's tiring. And you just keep, and then eventually you're so exhausted of all the Band-Aids you put on, you turn to drugs, alcohol, and maybe even you kill yourself. People go, why'd they kill themselves? They were so successful. Yeah. It's because they didn't heal themselves. But when you say, actually, if there is no meaning to life and I choose the meaning for my life and this is happening for me, you turn that pain into your power. Yeah. And you say, how is this happening for me? And you start to go in that direction. Like, my father killed himself. One of the best things that ever happened in my life, because it made me want to be in the service of people that were suffering. Yeah. I was hit by a car almost 6 years ago by a hit and run driver. Left for dead on the side of the road. 2 weeks intensive care, 2 months in hospital, 6 months on crutches. Best thing that ever happened in my life. Because before that, I wanted to live a life of being in the service of others, but I didn't have the right or permission to help people that have been through physical trauma. Yeah. I've never gone through physical trauma. I've been through emotional trauma, mental trauma, life trauma. And I was like, when I woke up day 10, 11 in intensive care, I was like, thank you, universe.
So the day you woke up in intensive care,
yeah,
there wasn't one part of you that thought, why me?
On my daughter's life.
Wow.
Not for 1 second. Yeah. I knew this happened for me.
So you came around and instantly that was a positive.
I knew this is a gift. Yeah. This is a gift. Because I knew, wow, my life is my message. Like Mahatma Gandhi very famously said, my life is my message. Be the change you want to see in the world was another quote of his. And I've just lived by that most of my adult life. Like, don't listen to what I say, watch how I walk. Yeah. Because what I want to do is I want to be a man of my word as much as I can be. I want to be authentic, vulnerable. I want to share all of me with the world. And hopefully inspire people to believe that it's okay to share all of yourself with the world. Love yourself, love your mistakes, love your failures. Keep moving forward, keep staying strong, keep never settling in your life. Never allow what's happened to you to define who you are. Your past doesn't equal your future. What happens to you isn't about what happens to you, it's about what you do with what happens to you. So all of this stuff and so much more that I would not have the time to share with you now, all of that was in my mind. And when I woke up and the doctor's like, oh, you'd been in an accident, I was like, let's fucking go. Let's go.
They must have thought, we've never had a guy like this before.
Yeah, it was crazy. I just knew, like, this, I'm going to make this, I call it the greatest comeback.
I mean, it's what an unbelievable attitude to life. And it's like Matt said when I said we're meeting today, he said, JP, I have never met a guy in my life who is that happy every day. And what an unbelievable thing to be known for.
Because happiness is success.
Because happiness is success. And so many people are guilty of that. Obviously, you've put so much work into yourself over the last 20 plus years, which is a huge commitment. I don't think many people make. Nowadays, do you feel like that's still ongoing work? Do you have days where self-doubt creeps in, or are you kind of beyond that? How does
there's
JP's life look now?
There's always going to be gaps between you performing at your best. Yeah. As you continue to work on yourself day by day, month by month, year by year, decade by decade, the gaps just decrease. Yeah. That's it. But the gaps are always there. Yeah. You know, when I was in my short time as a Buddhist monk, I met a monk that had been there for 13 years. I said, why have you been here for 13 years when you only intended to be a monk for 3 years? He just said, I keep finding more stuff to work on. Yeah. And people have to understand that for you to be truly happy, you need to have the mentality that you're never there and you're always there. So you're always there. If you say, I'm already there. I messaged a client this morning. I said, and he was like, man, I'm just feeling uninspired by my work, been in the office all day, etc. I said, what would you do today if you had already arrived?
Yeah.
What would you do if you'd already, the place that you want to go, that you're working so hard to get to, if you had already arrived, how would you live your life? And he went away and reflected on that. He was like, oh man, I know what to do now. I need to change my life. I need to change the way I'm working, just from that one question. And, you know, a good question like that can really make you think about your life.
Yeah. Can you change your life that quickly, though? Because I always think, isn't there a big element of fear in that the reason you live in your life one way is to achieve something, and then by changing, you're going to lose that path to where you were going?
But that's not thinking like God thinks.
Yeah.
That's not thinking in alignment with the universe. The universe only thinks in abundance. If you're living in lack, scarcity, and fear, you are literally, your ego is in the way of your own potential. Yeah. Your ego is in the way of your own joy, fulfillment, happiness, inner peace. Because if you live in alignment with the universe, and obviously we are the universe, right? Yeah. When we die, we just go back to the earth. If the universe is everywhere, universe must be in us. We're not separate from the universe or from God. So how does the universe act? Only in flow and abundance. Yeah. So if you're already saying, oh, I want to do this, but this, straight away you're out of alignment. Yeah. That's the problem. So the problem is not the fear. The problem is that you think in alignment with fear.
So I think you've got to not run from the fear, embrace it.
Like tomorrow I'm talking about abundance, how to have an abundance mindset. To live abundantly, to act abundantly, to think abundantly, you can't have fear there. Yeah. Like I have taken so many risks in my life, and people judge me, I'm sure. Co-parenting with my daughter's mother after only a year, my daughter being a year old, getting divorced, having ups and downs in my business. I really don't give a fuck. Because one, I validate myself, but I'm willing to take massive risks because I live in abundance. Yeah. I choose to live in abundance, and that's a choice. And you can say this divorce is happening to me or for me. You can say, oh, what happens if I lose my job? Yeah. You can also say, how great would it be to press the reset button on my life? Yeah. You know, common thing, people coming to me for coaching, usually referred by other people because they're going through a bit of a miserable time, is I've lost my job. Yeah. And it's like, it's the end of the world to them because they don't know who they are. They think they are their job. The problem is, if you think you're what you do, when you don't, you're not.
I know, exactly. And it's like people, you're so scared at that point, but when you actually look back years later, you do think it was the best thing that happened. Do you ever take a risk and do something and think, oh, that didn't quite work out, I regret that?
Only if I don't trust if it's against my intuition. Yeah. If I make a decision based on logic or my thoughts, it usually costs me later.
It costs you later.
But if I make a decision based on still a calculated risk, not a stupid, like being irresponsible, but if I make a decision based on my intuition, i.e. what feels right, and to do that, you need to have a strong connection to your heart through meditation, reflection, journaling, questioning yourself, self-work. It never guides me in the wrong place or takes me to the wrong place, ever. If I'm like, what should I do today? Ask my heart. And I ask clients, bro, I have had many people come to me in a session like, what's your goal? What's this? What's the vision? Or what do you need to do to overcome the situation in your business? Or how are you going to deal with a staff member? I don't know. Anxiety. Where does anxiety live? In the head or the heart?
Always in the head.
Always in the head. And literally, I'm taking like CEOs, business owners, and I'm like, just entertain me for a little bit. And I'm like, put your hand on your heart. And they're like, I'm like, put your hand on your heart. Yeah. Drop your chin. Bring your eyes down to your heart. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And just for a moment, just with your breath, guide your attention to your heart. Feel the energy in your heart. And now ask yourself the same question. On my daughter's life, every single time they have an answer. There's never been a time that someone has said, after connecting to their heart, that they still don't know what to do. If you don't know what to do, it's because you're living in your head. Yeah. And if people in my coaching, if they say, I don't know, in the beginning or working with me, I say, I don't allow those 3 words. It's not allowed. because then it means you're coming to a coaching conversation in your head.
Yeah.
And if you're coming to a coaching conversation in your head, this is a waste of our time, because you're just going to keep yourself stuck in the same patterns, the same routines, the same habits, the same mindset, the same life. Like, you need to be willing to drop here. And that's the most rewarding journey from the head to the heart. But it's also the most difficult, because you need to give yourself permission. And you'll only give yourself permission, I'll say it for the third time, if you love yourself enough.
You love yourself. So it's actually that idea that in order to really achieve true happiness, progress in life, you've also got to allow that vulnerability. Because it seems like, that's a big part of it, not just thinking with your head, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, allowing you to trust yourself.
Allow yourself to feel.
But allow other people to see your weaknesses, see you feeling as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can keep your cards close to you.
Yeah.
You don't have to go out there and share all your emotions with people, but you definitely need to be real with yourself. Yeah. Definitely. Because if you're not honest with yourself, then you're living a lie. Yeah. And I don't mean you, I mean just people in general.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, you're living a lie, and there's nothing inspirational. You can say you've got the jets and this, and I mean, I've been on yachts and jets and all these things, and I can see people around me. I'm like, you're miserable. There's no part of me that wants to be like you.
Yeah.
Like, you can keep your life. And then one person once was earning like $500,000 in a corporate job, and they're like, I want to give you some business advice. I was like, you look tired, you look fat, like you don't have a good relationship. Don't give me advice, because I don't want your life. So you just have to be careful where you get advice from.
It's always that idea when you look on the super yachts and that, and you see all these people sat around, and they're in, Monaco on a super yacht, and everyone's just glued to their phones. You think, like, you've spent millions and millions of pounds, and then you see that family camping, playing together, enjoying each other's company.
Yeah, I will say something on that though, because when you know who you are and you validate yourself, if that's your nature, to be a warrior. Look, a warrior back in the day used to be you're fighting. Yeah. Now a warrior could be you're just heavily aggressive in business. Yeah. And if you don't need validation from other people, and you feel like you want to be on your phone, I actually say, do you? Yeah. Do you, but know the reasons why you're doing what you do. I'm okay. I'm on my phone a lot because, I live in the service of others. So I like to, I don't have to do it, but I speak to my clients pretty much every day because I love it. That's what gives me purpose. Why would I want to break from that? But if you're doing something for a reason that's not in alignment with your values, your vision, your mission, your purpose, that's just causing you suffering in your life. And I do agree. Most people that have achieved a lot of success don't even know how to enjoy their success. I worked with a guy in the UK. He worked all of his career. He was maybe early 50s, and he had achieved everything. He had millions in his fund of his own money. He had an Aston Martin DB9. He had an estate like a castle in the Midlands in the UK. And he came to me because he was miserable. Yeah. And all the work that I do and a lot of the stuff we've been discussing on this podcast allowed him to realize that actually that's not who he is. Yeah. It's just where he was. And where we are changes all the time. So you've got to figure out who you are without these things. Anyway, we worked together for 3 months. He wanted to fix his love, his relationships, that kind of stuff. Afterwards, I asked him, please, can you share your experience of working with me? And he said, give me some time. I want to go away and think about this. And he was probably thinking from his logical mind. I want to be like, this change, this change, this change, this. And then he just dropped into his heart. And he messaged me back. And he said, can I have a call with you? And we got on the phone. And he just said, you know what, JP? I thought about this. And it's actually just one thing. I'm just happy for the first time. Yeah. And that's what real success is. It's being happy. So whether you have nothing or whether you have all the money in the world, your job is to be happy, especially if you care about at least one person. Yeah. Because if you are not happy in how you are showing up, you are giving people that you love permission to do the same, be the same, and have the same life. Yeah. And what kind of a leader is someone that says it's okay to not be happy in your life. The most greatest leadership in the world is inspirational leadership. How you become an inspirational leader is make your life inspiring. Yeah. So, once again, I'm not, don't want to go on about Matt, but what I love about Matt is even if he hosts a dinner, he's so humble and he's so attentive and he can host the dinner, but he'll be there pouring your wine or whatever. Like,
100%.
He's very present. He knows how to be very, very present. At least with me. I don't know. I don't know about
you're one of the blessed ones.
Yeah. I don't know. But also Matt is also on the phone a lot.
Yeah.
But he knows who he is. He doesn't need other people to tell him that he's good enough. Yeah. So you can have both sides.
Yeah. And how does that play into? Because we've talked a lot about loving yourself there. And one thing that always interests me is people say that when you look at these super successful billionaires, etc., they've got quite sociopathic tendencies in that they're incapable of thinking about anyone but themselves. They are laser focused, but to the extreme where their wife's feelings don't matter, their children's feelings don't matter, other people's. Now, I'm not generalizing, but how do people focus on loving themselves, but also have that love for family members, friends, etc.?
It depends on what your purpose is. Yeah. If your purpose is to be aggressive in business, then have that and understand that it comes at a cost. Yeah. Like living non-negotiably comes with costs. Yeah. Because the only way to keep everyone happy and have holistic, I guess, everything going well in your life is to usually compromise. But I don't believe in compromising.
Like you don't believe in compromise?
No, absolutely not. I think compromise is a weak word.
Yeah.
If you really loved yourself 100%, if you had bulletproof confidence, if you believe that everything comes your way, that everything happens for you, that whatever you want always manifests, you would just do whatever you want to do. Yeah. But compromise comes in when you feel like you, quote unquote, should do this, or you must do this, or if you don't do this, this is what people will think, etc. Like, I don't compromise. Yeah. Anyone that's close to me knows I don't compromise. Yeah. Like, if you piss me off and you've been a friend of mine for 12 years, I'm happy to not see you anymore. Yeah. I just don't care. Like, I'm living my life. I won't be in a relationship that has negativity in it. Yeah. Don't care. Oh, but you're going to be judged, or I just don't care. I just don't care.
And has that made relationships hard for you in the past, with the fact that you are sort of laser focused, not willing to compromise?
Absolutely, yeah.
But you just take the view that you've got the end, you've got the happiness to go.
You just have one life. Yeah. And in that one life, you need to have, in the beginning of your life, you get given a canvas. And you get to put on that canvas whatever you want. Yeah. No one's telling you what to put on that canvas, what brush to use, what color to use, what color combinations. You get to choose. And that should be the life that you live. Yeah. And along the way, when you're figuring out, like an artist painting a canvas, sometimes you realize, I fucked up. Yeah. I got it wrong. What does the artist do?
Paints over it.
That's it. It's like, that's just how I see life. Yeah. And this is what Buddhism and meditation has really helped me to do, to understand that attachment causes suffering. All suffering comes from attachment. If you see that your mother die in front of you right now, and you lose yourself for the rest of your life, that's because you attach to the expectation of your mother being around for longer. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying I'm like, oh, if my mother dies in front of me, I'm going to be fine. But I do have the awareness that my mother's death isn't what's causing my suffering. My attachment to my mother and the expectation of how long she should be here causes suffering. Most suffering comes from attachment, of how much money you thought you'd have by this age, the kids you thought by this age, what size business you thought you'd have by this age, how long you were going to be with your girlfriend or boyfriend, or oh, I got divorced. Like, maybe you were meant to get divorced.
I know, exactly.
But you have an expectation of it lasting for longer, and you're trying to turn a season into a lifetime.
Such a good
attachment and expectation is like getting to the end of summer and saying, fucking, why is there no more summer? It's stupid.
It is. Yeah. And people place, the thing I see now is people just place so much attachment on other people. They always feel let down by other people. And it's like, you cannot dictate how that person behaves. It's like people want to control the uncontrollables rather than control themselves.
Yeah, and you can barely influence people.
You barely do it.
Never mind control them. But yeah, you can barely influence people. But people don't let us down. I've said this for years. People don't let us down. Life doesn't let us down. The only thing that lets us down is our expectations of how we think people or life should be. Exactly. That's what lets you down. Like, it's just how it is. Remove your expectations. Appreciate everything. Even in your darkest moments, when shit's hitting the fan, when everything's going wrong, appreciate it. Yeah. And you just won't have suffering.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, I feel like we could go on all night tonight, JP. I feel like we've not even scratched the surface yet. It's been inspirational chatting to you. It really has. And hopefully the viewers will experience the exact same thing. Before you leave us today, I'm going to ask you one question, which you might find a little bit difficult to answer. And I know you don't like giving one piece of advice, but if you were speaking to someone, and there's so many people out there who feel like their life is ordinary at the minute, summarizing today, how do they get themselves from ordinary to extraordinary?
Bro, this is so difficult because, like you said, I don't want to give one.
But there's no right or wrong answer. But someone sat there at home and they're just thinking, I'm not where I want to be. They've been broken by the school system, or they've been broken by other people's opinions of themselves.
Gotcha.
They've told that, and they just want to grab the bull by the horns to do something fucking extraordinary with their life. So
the first thing is, and this is probably not the answer that most people are going to want. They're going to want some secret sauce or magic pill or something. It's fitness. Yeah. Like, fitness is the greatest antidepressant in the world. It's also the greatest empowerment drug in the world. The fitter you are, the more your thoughts are aligned to high vibration. So possibility, love, compassion, power, inspiration, motivation, because it's physiology first. Like, if you're feeling down right now, do some burpees. If you're feeling down right now, do some push-ups. I promise you, there's absolutely no way you will feel the same. Yeah. I've never met someone that's gone through a run through a forest, or come to the gym and had a workout with me, that ever in 20 years has said, that really made me feel depressed. And it's not more complicated than that. It's like, if you just work out every day, I often say it's not the thing, it's the thing about the thing. It's what it represents. If you think fitness is about fitness, you've seriously missed the point. It's about what it represents. It means that when you choose to put on your shoes, literally and metaphorically, that you're saying, I am in charge of my life. I am in charge of my thoughts, my emotions, my actions, the results in my life. That's what fitness represents. And it has to be non-negotiable. If you just or you have a fitness habit that's when the sun is out, or you say you're going to go on Tuesday, but you actually go on your Wednesday, you are writing a program that your happiness is negotiable. And then everything in your life becomes negotiable. But when you say fitness, because it's not about fitness, is going to be non-negotiable in my life right now because of what it represents, every single time, every morning, without fail, you do a workout of some kind, you are voting for yourself. And as everyone knows, in any election, the more votes in one area, that person takes charge. They take control. They are in power. So when you have a practice in your life where you vote for yourself every single day, it might take 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. Eventually, the person that's in power is the person that is not broken. They're not the victim. They remain victorious, and they start working towards a bulletproof self with unbreakable, unshakable certainty, because you are literally training yourself every day through consistency to become that person. It's not about fitness. So now, once you've done the fitness, I'm going to give an add-on. Okay, once you have fitness as an absolute non-negotiable. I have a client in Dubai. I took him running. Sometimes when I sign up a client in Dubai, I live in Thailand, depending on the package, because my private coaching is high level, I'll actually fly to Dubai and we'll do the first session face-to-face. And I took this client for a run. He did like 15 minutes running, like a minute, walking 3 minutes. I mean, it was shocking. He could not understand. Why would you make me do this? I just want you to help me be more successful. I want to raise more investment for my business. Now he runs every single day. And when he says if he doesn't run for some reason, because of travel or a meeting, whatever, he feels it in every part of his body. Yeah. So he gets it. But you don't get it until you get it. So you have to trust the process. Trust me, trust what I'm saying. You've got nothing to lose, everything to gain. And then once that's a non-negotiable for you, you're a different person. You vibrate at a different level, different frequency, different vibration. And because you do, because of the law of resonance, and Albert Einstein saying, match the frequency of the reality that you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. Now you vibrate at a higher level. Guess what? You bring better shit into your life because you are better. Life is a mirror of everything that's going on inside you. Now, once you're vibrating better, do 3 things. 1, keep getting, putting yourself in the place of autonomy, meaning you want to choose. You choose to change. You want to change. You want to transform. How do you do that? Seek inspiration every single day. Podcasts, YouTube, books, audiobooks, coaching, events, seminars, workshops. Find inspiration every single day, because that's the first step to motivation for change. Number 2, competence. Keep learning. Be a student of life. I used to think that, I don't know enough. There's more I can learn. Being a Buddhist monk, my brother monks taught me, live your life like you know nothing. Yeah. Like every day, even when you learn so much, live like you know nothing, because then you're always motivated to change by studying. And that studying gives you more competence, and competence gives you inspiration to change. And then the last one is relatedness. Surround yourself with like-minded people. Yeah. If you want to be a giant, get around giants. If you want to get it, it's not rocket science. If you want to be happy, get around happy people. Yeah. And I'll be really honest, Jamie. Some of my clients, they've got all the strategies in the beginning, but maybe they've still been with me 3, 4, 5. I've got one client that's been with me 7 years. I know why they're keeping me, because of relatedness. They just want to keep me because of my energy, my positivity, my mindset, because that rubs off on them. But the opposite is also true. If you have people that are down, in the funk, depressed, unmotivated, uninspired, uninspired by their own life, it's rubbing off on you whether you like it or not. So you've got to get around those positive people. Yeah. And that's it.
What an unbelievable ending. That was I'm feeling very inspired by that. That was an absolutely fantastic ending. And what a piece of advice out there. JP, I can't thank you enough for today. It's been absolutely brilliant. I feel like we need a part 2 at some point, because
let's do it, bro.
Because there's a lot more I want to know, but we have got time constraints. And to everyone listening, I really hope you found that as insightful as I did. It was absolutely excellent. And some of those lessons in life can make such massive changes. Please remember to like, follow, share, subscribe to all of our stuff. It lets us keep getting fantastic guests and bringing you more and more content. We'll see you again next week. And until then, keep raising the bar.